$15,000 for an automobile? Why, it's ridiculous. Asinine. Absolutely out of the question.
Why? It's my money, isn't it?
Not yet, it isn't. That money's held in trust for you. You haven't shown the slightest indication of ever being able to manage it. $15,000 for an automobile to road race in Europe.
Oh, it's not only that. I need some cash for other things.
What other things?
Oh, you wouldn't understand. You never have.
And I won't. Not so long as you continue to behave like an empty-headed idiot, without a grain of common sense.
All right, Grandfather. I'm through asking.
Mr. Herbert Maris, please. Hello, Herb. George Burkhart. I wish you'd come over here as soon as you can. I need your help. George, my grandson has robbed my safe.
George Burkhart was an old friend and a valued client. I knew his grandson, George, had been a serious problem since the death of the boy's mother, but it was difficult to believe he'd rob his own grandfather.
I'm out here, Herb. Take the white ball. Thanks, Herb, for coming so quickly.
Well, you sounded pretty upset.
That's an understatement. Herb, I finally made up my mind to one thing.
What's that?
This time, George will have to face up to the full consequences of his act. Oh, good shot.
Well, why are you so positive it was George?
That safe was opened by someone who knew the combination.
How much is missing?
$600 and some valuable family jewelry.
But why would George steal $600 in family jewelry when he's practically stealing from himself?
Herb, you don't know what I've gone through with that boy. After his father died, his mother indulged and overprotected him to such an extent that he has absolutely no sense of values.
His mother died about a year ago, didn't she?
In May. And if I refuse to let him dissipate his trust fund, he does it behind my back.
In what way?
Selling valuable family possessions, borrowing false security, conniving, stealing. If I can't teach that boy honesty and respect for money, he'll go through his trust fund like through a bag of peanuts. $15,000 for an automobile, which he'd probably kill himself.
This is a very serious accusation you're making. Are you sure it couldn't have been somebody else?
Positive. The house had a modern alarm system. The safe is burglar-proof. No one has access to that house but my old gardener, Pete, who's been with me over 30 years.
Well, just what do you want me to do?
I think this is the time and the chance for me to jolt him into serious thinking. I want you to tell him unless that money and jewelry are returned immediately, he'll be arrested and prosecuted like a common thief.
Mr. Maris, what are you doing here?
Well, I'm certainly not here to race you in one of these things.
Why not? It's a lot of fun. This one will turn over 100 when she's hot.
I'll take your word for it. Couldn't you develop a less nerve-wracking sport like tightrope walking over Niagara Falls?
That's not risky enough.
I bet the upkeep in one of these things can cost you a lot of money, can't it?
Yeah, it keeps me scratching, but it's worth it.
How much you got in this?
Oh, I haven't the nerve to tell you. But I'm gonna get me a real job as soon as I can pry some of my money out of the old man.
He's tough, huh?
Sure wish Mother were still here. I wouldn't have to ask her twice.
George, I'm here at your grandfather's request to talk about what happened last night.
You mean he's gonna give me the money?
Not exactly. He wants you to give him the money he says you took from his safe last night.
Took from his safe? He's out of his mind. I don't have to steal.
Unless you return the missing money and jewelry, he's going to sign a complaint. I'd advise you to talk it over with him.
You bet I'll talk it over with him.
That's the third time he's done that to me. Why don't you guys leave him alone?
I'm sorry.
I'll just bet you are. Well, maybe someday I can do something nasty to you.
Now, my boy, you'll have to learn that there are certain rules of conduct, decent behavior, not even you can break.
If you weren't such a tightwad with my money, I wouldn't break any rules.
Now, you listen to me. Either you return the money and jewels you took from that safe last night, or I'll have you arrested.
I'm giving you fair warning. If you have me arrested, you'll regret it.
He certainly didn't waste any time getting here.
That thing he calls a car can do 100 miles an hour. That's the speed at which he usually travels.
You two at it again.
Oh, lay off, Pete. I've had about enough for one day.
All right, but let me warn you. This time your grandpop means business.
And so do I.
George!
I know how you feel. I just don't want you to do anything hasty you might regret later.
Too late for regrets. That boy has to be saved from himself, and this is the only way we can do it.
I'm looking at it right now. Oh, all right.
John?
Listen, I'll get back to you later.
I understand you picked up the Burkhardt boy this morning.
That's right, and booked him.
John, I'm upset about this. They were both pretty emotional yesterday. I'd hate to think that boy was jailed just because his grandfather flew off the handle.
And put your mind at ease, Herb. That kid just paid a long overdue parts and labor bill on that souped-up car of his yesterday. It amounted to a little over $500.
Did he say where he got the money?
Oh, several times. And two stories alike. We checked them out. He was lying.
I can't understand it. That boy is due to inherit a large sum of money shortly. Why would he hurt himself and his future by pulling a stunt like this?
Are you asking me to analyze the criminal mind?
But this boy isn't a criminal, John. I can't stand by and see the last two Burkhardts estranged just because of their lack of understanding and stubbornness. I've got to see that boy. Okay?
Okay.
Thanks.
Boy, am I glad to see you. How soon can you get me out of here?
Well, that depends on you. But if I'm going to act as your lawyer, you'll have to be absolutely honest with me. I suppose you tell me all about it.
Mr. Maris, there's nothing to tell. I did not rob that safe. How could I? I don't even know the combination.
Your grandfather says you do.
Oh, he only thinks I know. I pretended to learn the combination by watching him. I knew it annoyed him. Actually, I couldn't open it if my life depended on it.
If you didn't rob the safe, where'd you get the money to pay the $500 parts and labor bill?
Oh, I borrowed it.
From whom? Well, George?
I can't tell you. I just can't tell you.
I want to help you, but there's nothing I can do if you won't cooperate.
I can't help it. I'm not going to tell you where I got that money. But I'll tell you this. When I get out of here, I'm going to sue the old man for false arrest. I'll collect plenty.
I think you're both dead wrong, but there's nothing I can do if you won't be frank and truthful. George, when you want to level with me, you can reach me at my office. Guard!
for a moment, please?
Well, I'm sorry, miss, but
It's about George Burkhart.
do I know you?
My name's Mandy Adams. We talked at the racetrack yesterday.
Oh, you mean the crash helmet, the coverall?
Mm-hmm. Gee, I'm sorry I was so snippy, but, well, I was mad.
Oh, it's perfectly understandable. Yes, there are a few things I'd like to talk to you about. Sit down, won't you? Now, what about George?
Well, I wanted to arrange bail for him, but I don't know how to go about it.
There's another more important way you can help.
What is it?
George paid a $500 parts bill yesterday. Do you know where he got the money?
No, not the slightest.
Do you know any of his close friends and associates?
Well, George doesn't have many close friends that I know of. Just the people that hang around the track.
Tell me about them.
Well, there's Eddie Ward. He is the neatest driver. And Rush Moore, he's a really great mechanic. And, let's see, there's Walt King. Yeah, he arranges races. Just people like that.
Why would George have such a large bill to pay on his car?
You see, he insisted on the new machine parts instead of those that Webb Mac sells.
Webb Mac, who's he?
Oh, just a man who sells parts at a big discount.
At a discount? Where does he get them?
Who asked? Parts are a big item in race cars.
But they could be stolen.
I didn't say that.
But you did suggest that Mac supplies parts much cheaper than they could be purchased elsewhere.
I suppose so.
And if they were stolen, and someone knew about it, Mac might make a loan of $500 to someone to keep the information from reaching the police.
You mean to George?
Where could we find Mac?
He has a store down on Harvard Street.
Let's have a little talk with him. Would you mind?
No, not at all.
Hello, Counselor. I guess you got my message.
No, I didn't. What are you doing here?
Filler routine, fellow by the name of Webb Mac. Runs a stolen parts racket. He was caught stripping a car and failed to stop on a policeman's order.
Where is he now?
In the morgue. The young lady interested in Mac?
Only incidentally. She's really interested in George Burkhart.
Oh, well, that's what my message was about.
Oh, what was it?
George Burkhart tried to commit suicide last night.
I dropped Mandy off at her car and headed for the jail ward of the county hospital. I was shocked and distressed at the boy's action. Attempted suicide would indicate a strong sense of guilt. It was a guilt I was also sharing. My attitude at our last meeting hadn't been very sympathetic.
You idiots! You stupid fools! Let me out of there! Finally, I've been yelling for an hour.
And it didn't do you a bit of good. This room is soundproof. Nobody can hear you. Why'd you do it, George?
You too? Why can't I get anybody to listen to me? I did not try to kill myself. I'm a sleepwalker. It's the truth, Mr. Maris. I've been doing it ever since I was a kid.
What happened last night?
Oh, like a fool, I decided to sleep in the upper bunk. It was cleaner. I must have started to sleepwalk and fell headfirst on a cement floor. It knocked me out cold. The next thing I knew, they were putting tranquilizer shots in me and putting this on.
Well, that's a great relief.
My father had the same problem. My mother used to tie his big toe to the bed, but even that didn't work. He'd just untie it and walk right off.
George, you've just given me an idea. I needed some authentic and expert information about sleepwalking, so I consulted Dr. Horace Belden, a leading neurologist.
Somnambulism is by no means uncommon, Mr. Maris. Believe it or not, there are hundreds of cases reported every day.
What do people in this state of animation do?
Usually very simple acts. Walk around a familiar house, do the little things they're accustomed to doing when in a waking state.
Is it possible to determine exactly what a person did at a certain time when in this state?
Yes, under favorable conditions.
One more question. How?
Through hypnosis. Sometimes a hypnotized somnambulist can be persuaded to remember or reenact a particular event.
Doctor, with your help, I might be able to prevent a miscarriage of justice. And find an answer to a very baffling situation.
Sleepwalking hypnotism.
Believe me, John, it's possible.
Oh, Herb, why not bring the boy here? Why go to the doctor's office?
Because Dr. Belden thinks that the boy would be too upset and nervous in jail to respond properly.
Look, Herb, let's try a lie detector test or truth serum.
Those methods might not work, John. If the boy robbed the safe while he was in a somnambulist state, the fact remains in his subconscious mind. And he might deny it because he consciously believes he's innocent.
Herbert Almaris, if you're trying to confuse me, you're doing a pretty good job.
But it might work, John. Now, what do you lose if you try it? Supposing the boy did rob the safe and did it while he was sleepwalking and doesn't know it. This is a chance for us to find out the truth, John.
You know, Herb, I've gone along with you in a lot of pretty weird deals. Well, I guess one more won't hurt, huh? Thanks.
He's under. Very good subject, I might add.
Can he hear us?
No, he'll only hear me.
Ask him to tell us exactly what he did after 10 o'clock on Wednesday night.
Very well. Now, George, I want you to go back to Wednesday night last after 10 o'clock. What are you doing?
I'm in my room.
What are you doing?
I'm calling people, trying to borrow money on my trust.
Who are you calling?
Tracy Harkness, Webmack, Lenny Coster.
Do you manage to arrange a loan?
No. They all turned me down.
Why do you need this money?
The Acme Engineering Company is going to impound my car if I don't pay my bill.
Now what are you doing?
I'm going to bed.
Do you sleep well?
No. I'm very restless. I get up early and leave the house.
Doctor, ask him where he got the $500.
George, where did you get the money with which to pay this Acme bill? Tell me, George, where did you get that money? This is something he doesn't want to reveal, so I can't persuade him to answer.
Why?
Contrary to popular belief, Lieutenant, no one can persuade a hypnotized subject to commit a crime or perform an immoral act if it's something he wouldn't do while fully conscious. It's just possible George is so determined to keep his secret he won't answer even under hypnosis. Is there anything else you'd like me to ask him?
No, I guess not.
It's too bad, Herb. I was hoping it might work.
So was I. Think, Mandy. Tell me anything you can remember. We've got to find out where George got that money.
Gee, I'm sorry, Mr. Maris, but I've told you everything I can think of.
I hate to say this, Mandy, but he can be convicted on circumstantial evidence if he continues to refuse me the information.
Well, can't they just take his word for it?
Not against his grandfather's.
Everybody believes Mr. Burkhart, but no one will believe George. Why?
Mandy, a man is known by his past record. Unfortunately, George's isn't too good at the moment.
I hate that old Mr. Burkhart. I think he's framing George. Say, why don't you get him to talk?
Yes. It's a very good idea.
Herb, this is ridiculous. You know that, Lieutenant.
Mr. Burkhart, there's nothing ridiculous about hypnotism in proper hands. Today, it's a valuable medical tool.
Now, why not let Dr. Belden try his experiment? It can't do any harm, and it might help us get to the truth.
I've already explained everything that happened. Furthermore, I'm a very strong-minded man. Nobody can hypnotize me.
George, I'll admit that right now that all of the evidence is against your grandson, and he'll probably be convicted. Largely on your testimony. Is that what you want? Are you so set on teaching him a bitter lesson your way? Are you willing to see him sent to prison without making one last effort to help him?
What is it you want me to do?
Just sit down, please. Gentlemen. Now then, Mr. Burkhart, if you'll just relax, please.
Relax, I assure you. You're wasting your time.
Well, shall we give it a try?
You know, Herb, as far as I'm concerned, this probably won't work. Remember what happened yesterday?
Bear with us, John. It'll just take a few minutes.
Suppose the old man is right and the doctor can't hypnotize him. Remember, he said he was strong-willed. I wonder what kind of a subject you'd make.
Very weak-willed.
All right, gentlemen.
Oh, you mean he's under already?
Completely. This frequently happens with very strong-minded people. If you're ready, I'll take him back to Wednesday. Now, Mr. Burkhart, I want you to go back to last Wednesday night. You understand?
Yes.
It's after midnight, and you're in your room asleep. Are you sleeping well?
No. Restless and disturbed.
What do you do?
Get up and go downstairs.
You are now downstairs. I want you to open your eyes and do exactly what you're doing when you come in this room. Since the safe is empty, he's pantomiming his actions of Wednesday.
Herb, if I hadn't seen it, I wouldn't believe it.
Let's look for fresh turned earth.
Herb!
What are you fellows doing here?
Digging for buried treasure.
It looks like you found some, too. Is that the stuff from the safe?
That's it.
Good. Now, regardless, I'm going to tell the old man I loaned George that 500.
What? You did? Why didn't you tell him before?
Promised the boy I wouldn't. He didn't want to get me fired. But I don't care now. The kid's been through enough.
They've both been through enough. You come with us. I promise you, you won't get fired.
Well? Herb, you're right. This thing's unsafe. George, you're going to have a new car immediately.